I never thought I'd find myself here, sharing the most vulnerable and raw confession of my life. But perhaps it's the only way to truly reflect on how far we've come. My name is Sarah, and I've been married to James for nearly 12 years. James is everything I could have ever hoped for in a partner: kind, patient, and fiercely loyal. From the moment we met, our connection felt effortless, like we were two pieces of the same puzzle falling perfectly into place. Our life together wasn't perfect, but it was ours, full of little quirks and traditions that made it special, like our Sunday morning coffee ritual, where we'd sit on the porch, sipping our mugs, talking about everything and nothing. One morning, James spilled his coffee on my lap while attempting to mimic my hand gestures during a story. We laughed so hard I cried, and that memory became a cherished reminder of the joy we found in each other's company. But not everything in our marriage was as perfect as it seemed. Beneath the surface of our seemingly idyllic life, there were cracks. They were small at first, almost invisible, but over time they widened, and I became someone I hardly recognized. It's why I'm here, ready to confess the greatest mistake I've ever made and how it changed everything. My confession wasn't planned, but it had been eating away at me for months. One evening, as James and I were settling into our usual routine, he casually mentioned how much he appreciated my honesty. The weight of his words crushed me. That was the moment I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. With tears streaming down my face, I told James about the secret I'd been hiding, a brief but undeniable lapse in judgment that had taken place months ago. It was during a time when our marriage felt stagnant. We were caught in the monotony of work, bills, and responsibilities, and I craved something, anything, that would make me feel alive again. That's when I reconnected with an old acquaintance from college. At first it was innocent, just casual conversations and harmless nostalgia. But the lines blurred, and before I knew it, I had crossed boundaries I swore I'd never even approach. It wasn't physical, but the emotional connection I'd formed with this person felt like an act of betrayal. As I spoke, I watched James's face transform, from confusion to hurt and then to something I couldn't quite place. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He just sat there, silent, absorbing every word like it was a physical blow. I could feel the pain radiating from him, and it tore me apart. The days that followed were the most challenging of our lives. James and I talked endlessly, dissecting every detail of my confession, trying to make sense of how we'd gotten to this point. I explained how lost I'd felt, how our lack of connection had made me vulnerable to seeking validation elsewhere. It didn't excuse my actions, but it was the only way I could articulate why it had happened. What shocked me the most was how this confession forced us to confront not just my mistake, but everything we'd been avoiding in our marriage. The late-night arguments about work stress, the unspoken resentment about household responsibilities, the quiet moments when we'd sit next to each other but feel miles apart. It all came rushing to the surface. James was hurt, yes, but he was also determined. He told me he wanted to try, to fight for what we had, as long as I was willing to do the same. That was the moment I realized how much I'd taken him, and our marriage, for granted. Healing wasn't linear. There were days when James couldn't look at me without his pain spilling over, and there were nights when I cried myself to sleep, unsure if we'd ever truly recover. But slowly, we started to rebuild. We sought therapy, both individually and as a couple, where we learned how to communicate in ways we never had before. I made it my mission to prove to James every single day that he could trust me again. Through this painful process, I learned lessons that will stay with me forever. I learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's about showing up, even when things are messy and hard. I learned that vulnerability is the bridge to connection, and that admitting my flaws didn't make me weak, it made me human. Today, James and I are stronger than we've ever been. We've rediscovered the joy in our relationship, building new traditions and memories while honoring the journey that brought us here. We're not perfect, and we never will be, but we're committed to growing together, no matter what challenges come our way. If there's one thing I hope others can take from our story, it's that mistakes don't have to define a relationship. Forgiveness, though difficult, can be transformative when both people are willing to put in the work. Communication and honesty are the foundation of any strong partnership, and they're worth fighting for. As I sit here reflecting on our journey, I feel a sense of peace. The road was long and painful, but it led us to a place of understanding and resilience I never thought possible. If you're navigating a similar challenge, I hope our story can be a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, love can prevail.